This episode could be triggering for sensitive listeners and contains mature content. It may not be suitable to all listeners. Should you need any emotional assistance, please see the show notes for telephone numbers that you can call. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are my own and do not reflect the official policy or position of the podcast. Any content provided by contributors, such as the host, guests, bloggers, sponsors, or authors, are of their opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything. Before we start, I need to say an enormous thank you to my fellow local podcasters, Nicole, Jan, NJ, Kate, Lebogang, Shane, and Quinton. Thank you for all of your help, guidance, and the laughs. This is Decoding Cults, and I'm your host, Palsy. You are listening to KSB, Interview with Erika Bornman, Part 2. This week, we continue our conversation with Erika Bornman. She is really fabulous, and I absolutely loved speaking with her again. If you haven't listened to the first part yet, I suggest you pause here and go back one episode. I really hope that you enjoy this episode. Hello, everybody, and we would just like to say thank you and welcome to Erika for joining us again this week. I'm so grateful that you're giving us this time. Last week, we were speaking about the differences in the general, I wanted to say population, but that's a terrible word. That sounds like prison. But
Well, hello.
Okay, little on the nose there. But the general followers versus the guys at the top. So I know in one of my conversations with Kwasizabantu, he spoke about the hierarchical pyramid, which is very much how they want to keep it. So you've got the very few people at the pointy top that are very well off, and then you've got the masses at the bottom, but everyone at the bottom is kind of fighting to get to the top and fighting to impress everyone and I guess just get a better life, because as in that one article that lawyer wrote about, the higher up he got in the choirs, the better his living conditions became and the better his food even became. So
Absolutely.
I know that you and your mother lived in a rondavel, which, as I explained in the previous episode for our overseas listeners, is kind of like a round hut structure with a thatched roof. And in the case of KSB, you've got like a little bathroom, but it's basically like one circular room. And from what I've read, that's kind of, in the grand scheme of things, not a bad place to live compared to other places.
It's actually one of the nice places. I see on photographs, more recent photographs, it looks like some people have added like a story to an extra story to their, so it's now a double story rondavel, you know. So I guess there has been some expansions, but that was still one of the better places because you have your own bathroom. If you're in a dormitory, then you share bathrooms with like lots of other people. But I can't really speak about the living conditions at the moment, currently, because I haven't been there for so long.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I mean, we're here to speak about your experience. I mean, what's changed and hasn't changed in the meantime. And if things have changed for the better for people, that's fantastic. But that obviously wasn't your experience. And your book paints the picture quite vividly of some of your experiences there. And one of the things that also made me want to speak to you is because a lot of the people keep saying, yeah, but that's the past and this is the past and this doesn't happen anymore. And that if it doesn't happen anymore, like I said, great. But that doesn't take away from what did happen and the fact that you did live through it. And your stories need to be told, they need to be heard.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the thing is there's actually, they have not stated that they don't acknowledge that they have done anything wrong, except maybe a few vicious beatings. That's kind of the extent of what they acknowledge they've done wrong. They will not acknowledge that they harbored sexual predators in their midst, that they protected them. They will not acknowledge that they screwed up hundreds of children by ritual beatings, like every Saturday, you know, and the way they did it was inhumane. They just want us to get over it and move on. But no, the reason I can't move on is because I don't know what they're doing to break the spirits of the children who are in their care now. And so, no, I'm not going to carry on. And all these millions that they squander on a known criminal, that the loan that they were supposedly duped into making. I mean, who actually hands over 140 million rand in cash to some dodgy dude? I mean, the story is just so implausible, you know. But anyway, be that as it may, hopefully the Hawks at some point will tell us what happened there. So basically, they refuse to acknowledge responsibility. And that shows me that they don't repent. They don't have remorse and they haven't repented. And so, you know, what's stopping them from beating a child behind closed doors? What? Nothing. They're above the law. They are not accountable to any panel or group, or they are their own law. And the law has pretty much left them alone all these years. And I'm saying that has to change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they talk about the things, and I do mention this in part 5 to a degree, but they mentioned like, yeah, but the stories only came out now, and everything's only happened since 2020. But if you go onto the KSB Alert website, I mean, there was a guy that was worried about Urlo way back in the 60s when he had taken over the mission from Anton Engelbrecht. And there have been people coming out in bits and pieces. And then, I mean, you've been fighting this fight since your Femina article, which was way back in 2000. So it's been, it's like been almost 22 years that you've been speaking up. So it's just, it makes me sad that like things like this get swept under the rug, and then people are surprised when something big happens again. And I'm like, well, people have been fighting the good fight for years.
Yeah. And I don't know what it is about South Africa, whether it is that we're just so reluctant to take on a religious institution, even though there is very clearly something very wrong. Or, I mean, what is it? Is it just easier to just go, oh my, that's terrible. Okay, but the water tastes good. So who cares? Yeah.
I think there's two things to this. So the first one is the Bill of Rights obviously protects religious freedom, and for a good reason. I mean, if I want to become a pagan fairy unicorn believer tomorrow, then I have every right to do that. Yes. Then you have the CRL Commission, which has been set up to monitor, but they can't really do anything about it. So they can set the report up, they can make their recommendations, and then it's kind of up to you to fix it. The only place where people have recourse is basically in the laws. And the biggest law that kind of protects people is the Domestic Violence Act for adults, where there is financial abuse, spiritual abuse, all of those kind of things fall under the Domestic Violence Act. And then for children, which is a bit hard to prove with the Domino Savete school as it stands. But for children, there is the Child Protection Act. So making sure they get educated properly, making sure that they're in healthy working conditions. So the Child Protection Act is quite vast and quite big. And that's how, like for Seven Angel Ministries, which was in the Eastern Cape, that's how they kind of got the kids out, was under the Child Protection Act. But they didn't have a school. They just had the kids singing and dancing in the yard. So the government had more of a leg to stand on, where where your guys' recourse, I think, would fall more under the Domestic Violence Act, so spiritual abuse, financial abuse, even psychological abuse, like all of those kind of abuses you can take on from that aspect. So it's very hard for them to be litigious about it, because we don't have a coercive control law, where they have that in the UK, and in some states in America, they have this law now where if you can prove coercive control, you can send this person to jail. We don't have those kind of laws here in any way, shape, or form. And the coercive control laws are quite a recent thing, like only in the last 5 or 6 years in the UK, and then in the US even later than that. So we don't have much that they can actually do unless you go to the cops and say, I've been abused.
Yes. And it normally takes you so long to come to terms with your abuse, to first understand that you've been abused, and then to come to terms with it where you are able to actually talk about it. And but by that time, so much time has gone by. It's very, it's a tricky thing, but just because it's tricky doesn't mean that we just accept the status quo. So I mean, if there's any of your listeners who have some ideas, they're free to reach out and give some, if there's maybe some legal advice or an avenue that they think you might go. But I mean, we are in the background, this informal group of ex-members. It's not like we're sitting twiddling our thumbs, so I suppose I can just say, watch this space.
Yes. No, I mean, if it's ongoing stuff, then don't elaborate until we can shout it from the rooftops.
Because I mean, Kwasizabantu monitors my Twitter feed. Can you imagine what they must be listening to this? Hello, Kwasizabantu. How much do you love me? But anyway, so you can be sure they're listening to this and probably transcribing it and trying to find whether there's anything that they can, I don't know, hang me on. Because they love to make me out to be a liar, and they say, if we can catch her in one lie, then we can throw out her whole testimony. But they haven't yet caught me in a lie, so up to them.
Well, I'm going to refer back to your book like I did in the previous episode last week. Again, guys, Mission of Malice, My Exodus from Kwasizabantu. It is really, really an amazing book. It's available in all of the bookstores. You can also buy it on Take-A-Lot. I don't know, Erika, is it available on Amazon for overseas people yet, or is it?
Yes, absolutely, as an ebook. And we've just recorded the audiobook. Well, my publishers have just recorded the audiobook, and I believe that's going live or it has just gone live on the 1st of December.
Okay, awesome. So guys, will that be available on platforms like Audible and Apple Books and those kind of things? Okay.
Yeah, they've assured me it will be available everywhere. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So please, for our local listeners, grab the book. For our overseas listeners, Kindle it, Audible it. I'll probably get it on Audible anyway so that I can listen to it again, because besides reading books, I also like listening to books. I'm oversharing now, sorry. Okay, so anyway, so sorry, there was a point to this conversation. I'm so sorry. My listeners are going to think I'm a complete... dumbass, but it's just so much fun talking to you.
I think your listeners adore you.
Oh, I hope so. I feel like I sound a lot more professional when I'm recording, but then I can edit a lot.
Yes.
But in your book, you're kind of unapologetically you in the way that, I mean, you struggled. Struggled is a terrible way to phrase it. You were navigating your way through this outside world that we basically take for granted. And there were times where you did things that like might have made your mother's blush until her ears were red, but you just you tell it. You tell your stories. You unapologetically just go, look, my journey wasn't great. I'm not perfect. This is all of me. I like, by reading your book, I kind of feel like I know you so well. But yeah, so trying to catch you in a lie in that sense, I mean, you're an open book.
I'm very much an open book, and I knew when I was writing it that I couldn't make myself out to be this hero, you know, this virtuous hero, because I'm anything but. I drink, I swear, I shag, you know, like I live life
as we do.
And yeah, and I've sometimes drunk too much and sworn too much and shagged too much, you know, and like, yeah, and but they instilled so much shame in me about me being me. And I turned 50 this year, and for the first time I actually like who I am, and I can look at myself in the mirror and I can go, yes, you're awesome, Erika, you know, and I like who I am. And that is, it's a momentous thing, you know, and that has given me, you asked me in the previous episode, like, what gets me through the really dark days? And I said, kind of like, I'm doing it for other people. But you know what? The darkest days are not as dark anymore now that I like myself. Because, yeah, I feel like whatever comes my way, I can handle now because, you know, I like myself. I might sound a bit repetitive, but it's a new thing for me to like myself. It's very new.
That's great. People that have been on the outside world their whole lives don't like themselves. You're winning at life.
I'm winning at life. And it's a lot of therapy that have gotten me there. And a lot of bottles of wine. Yeah.
Therapy, bottles of wine, you're speaking my language.
That's the other thing that gets me through the very dark days.
Yep.
Oh, mother dear, yes, no, I'm not an alcoholic, don't worry. I just think it's so funny that they hang on to every word I write and say. But anyway, I suppose if I were them, and I would never be them because I like to do good things, I probably would too. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose when you're like, I kind of feel like because you got in a little bit later, so you weren't like born into the cult. You got in at 8, got out for a little bit, although your parents were still part of the congregation, mission, whatever. You guys moved away. You had some semblance of a secular life here up in Joburg, moved back to KSB. Then you got to go overseas. I don't want to give too much of the book away, but so then you got to go overseas. So although you were still kind of within KSB circles, you did get some out so that you could see that you could be a religious. I'm specifically talking now about the guys overseas. You could be part of KSB and still be a good, caring human being, and then end up going back there and back into the cycle of mental and emotional abuse. Let's just call it what it is.
And sexual abuse in my case.
Yes. Yeah. So I think at least you had that so that you could realize that there's more to life. And you'd always had that questioning thing in the back of your head. That's how it gets portrayed to me. So you always had that, your critical thought was never completely dampened. And I think
never completely. Yes, they never managed to break my spirit completely.
Yes.
But I also think it's because my dad was such a wonderful human being and he loved me so much. And I never doubted his love. And I really started floundering at age 15 when he died. Like I don't think he knew of the extreme physical abuse that they were inflicting on the children, because I never told him. And I asked my brother, and my brother says he also never told him. We were trying to protect my parents from their bad decisions. You know, like children take everything on themselves, you know. So yes, they never managed to completely extinguish my spirit. But you know, if one of the hot guys had asked me to marry him instead of three dweebs, oh no, I mustn't say three dweebs, because like
3 men you didn't find as attractive as the others.
Yeah, no, the first guy was definitely a dweeb. The second guy was a really nice guy. And the third guy has an awful brother, and I would never marry into that family, even if I had a gun to my head. So like, but let's say it had been one of the hot guys who had asked to marry me at age 18. I was 18 years old. It was 2 days after my final matric examination, the first time ALO called me in and said, this people thinks it's God's will to marry you. He obviously didn't use the word pupil, but anyway. This pupil is still there. It's still part of the mission, married with children. So God obviously found him another wife. But, you know, if it had been one of the hot guys who'd asked me, I probably would have said yes. And I probably, by the age of 21, which is when I ran away, I probably already had 3 children, or 2 at least. And my life would have been very, very different, you know. So thank God it was a dweeb that requested my hand in marriage, and that somewhere I found the courage to say no. So yeah.
Sorry, I'm just, you know, I go on these mind tangents. So it's just, there's 2 things I want to ask you. The first one is, so you know, I've been speaking to a gentleman who I'm calling Mark, who was part of an overseas branch, and he was also kind of telling me about how young the girl. Okay, I mean, 18, you're technically adulty, but how young at that age overseas, you also kind of married off. Do you think that's also a way to make young people stay? Because I know that the practices say that the man gets the revelation and then he goes to Uncle Erla, or he used to go to Uncle Friedel. I don't know who they go to now. But they get the revelation, they go, they pray, they go tell the girl everything's a big secret, you know. But do you think that in a way they kind of led to, like in a confession, they'd be like, so Erika, look, what do you think about Erika? Like she's genuinely a pious woman, you know? What are your thoughts about Erika? Like planting seeds in guys so they pick these girls young so that they can keep them in the mission. But this is just me speculating.
And it's also very often the girls who are actually attractive and outgoing who God has his eye on, you know. So I don't actually think that God has anything to do with it. Also, do you know, Pauline, in like 5 decades, God hasn't wanted one interracial marriage. The races live among one another, they mingle, but God has not ordained one single interracial marriage in 5 decades among thousands of people. Like, really, God? Seriously, dude? Are you a racist? Are you a little bit racist, God of Kwasizabantu?
That's
I want to have a chat with you, God of Kwasizabantu. I have a number of things I want to say to you.
Yeah. So that's something. So, and I'm backtracking a bit, and I know that your dad, he was your whole world, and I know that. And in your book, you kind of describe how he was going to be the principal, but then he was kind of told, no, you're just going to be a teacher. So I know that you were very young and you don't exactly know what's going on there or what happened there. But like what I read between the lines is your dad was kind of not happy with something that he heard or had seen. So
yes, So what
do you
happens?
think that it had to do with maybe the beatings and the segregation within the school at that point as well? Because I mean, it just
Look, I think my dad was probably okay with. Oh, you mean segregation of the races or of the
yes,
sexes?
no. Well, the races, they're not the
The races,
sexes.
yeah. So this was 1987, January 1987. So we're still in the apartheid years. And I think my dad was very excited to be part of a pioneer school that was going to be multiracial in South Africa. My aunt told me that he called her the night before he died. And the day before he died, the afternoon, and he told her that there had been a school meeting of the teachers and the board, and that they had demoted him from being principal to just being a teacher because he didn't agree with some of their policies. He didn't tell her what those policies were. Look, my dad gave us hidings, but like I say, I never told him the extent of the beatings that Kwasizabantu dishes out. So whether it was that or what it was, I don't know. But I do know that the day before he died of a heart attack, they broke his heart. So, yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, he was 43, very young.
I'm going to be 43 next year.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
My brother is 2 years older than me, and he warned me before I turned 43. He said, Erika, it's going to be a bit of a mind fuck, because the whole year that you're 43 is going to be like weird. And it was, I was so relieved to turn 44. And now I've just turned 50. So I've already lived 7 years longer than my dad ever lived. It's so weird to think of him like that, because he'd be turning 80 next year if he was alive.
Wow.
No, in 2 years he'd be turning 80, so he'd be 78. But for me, he's always 43.
Yeah,
he's just young. Well, I thought he was old then, but very young actually.
But look, when I was young, people in their 40s and 50s were like grannies. So I mean, it changes as you get older. 40 doesn't seem so old anymore, and neither does 50 and even 60.
120 years old now.
Yeah. Which is the age my mom's aiming for. So
good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So sure, but I've completely lost my train of thought of what else I wanted to ask you. I'm so sorry.
No. One thing that one reviewer, actually more than one reviewer, has picked up is that I write quite a bit about what it's like to try and integrate into the world. And I think many people think that leaving a cult is the hardest thing, but it isn't necessarily. It's actually that adapting and unlearning and relearning and throwing the baby out with the bathwater and then realizing, oh shit, the baby's outside on the lawn, and going to fetch the baby, and then throwing the baby out with the bathwater again, and then running to save the baby. It's a long process like that, and so I write quite a lot about that in my book, and I'm quite frank about it, about the silly things that happen, but also the like harder things, and then what led me to this crusade that I'm on, greatly helped by, of course, News 24. I mean, I don't think we'd be speaking to each other if it weren't for News 24 and the work they did, and just highlighting the terrible things that these people have done, and I mean, I don't know, Pauline, I don't know how one goes about dismantling a cult that is this powerful and this rich.
Look,
I don't know what the
I know that this is probably a way out there comparison, but if you take something like, I'm going to say it, the Scientology, which is also, it's got very, look, beliefs are beliefs. You do you. You need to believe that that tree is your master. You do you, but don't hurt someone in the process, and don't take away their free will, and don't take away their identity. So believe what you want. So if they want to believe in Xenu, the volcano alien god, good for you. But their practices and their rules and all of those things are very bad. But they are a multi-billion-dollar industry. And I don't think that they'll ever change their beliefs per se. But I think what you could do is change the abusive behavior. If you can just do that, then they can believe what they want, and they can wear their long skirts and no makeup. I mean, no makeup for me, great, because I missed that class in makeup school. But just don't hurt and abuse people. I think if you can just maybe keep crusading to stop that, then you won't have to unmantle the whole thing, or dismantle. Sorry, my English. You don't have to dismantle the whole thing. You just need to maybe stop the bad practices, because then they can do their beautiful Aquile water, and they can do their wonderful Mcini farm, but pay their people fair wages, make sure that they have pensions or provident funds, make sure that they have medical aid, make sure that the kids aren't beaten in school or at home or whatever the case may be. If someone comes to you and says, I have been sexually abused, take it to the authorities straight away. Don't let the guy cry and God's forgiven you. Yay, you're okay. Go ahead and do it again. So I think, dismantling the beast might not be easy, but maybe stopping the abuses would be the key, I guess. But that's just my opinion. I mean, up to you.
Yeah, no, totally. I hear you, but I mean, they don't acknowledge that they've done anything wrong. So how would you stop anything when they're not prepared to acknowledge that breaking a child's spirit is wrong? They believe that they're right. You know, I don't know. Al Capone was sent to jail for tax fraud. For a start, their tax exempt status should be taken away. And they should pay taxes like everybody else. That goes for Scientology too. I think it's completely wrong that churches, that you just have to proclaim yourself as a religion and then you don't pay tax. I mean, how ridiculous is that?
So we're starting our own cult next week.
Well, I'm thinking about that,
That was terrible.
Yeah, but is that what who did that? One of the talk show hosts, late night talk show hosts, did exactly that and started his own religion to prove how easy it was to do it. I can't remember who it was. Oh man,
no idea.
I'll go find that. But anyway, just prove how easy it is in the States to get tax exempt status as a religion. When
you just have to fill in a questionnaire and prove a couple of things, like you only have people in your religion only believe in your religion, and like there's very random things that are like, well, I can just tick yes and Bob's my God. Yeah, exactly.
And if that isn't a good reason to start a cult, then I don't know.
Yeah.
We are not going to start a cult.
No.
We are here to
shine a light. Jest. Yeah. Look, the whole purpose of this is just to get people talking about it in any which way, and get people more aware of these kind of behaviors, just so that if you see someone maybe going down a path that looks a little bit destructive to themselves, that maybe you can, go, well, that sounds a little bit culty. Maybe we should just look at it a bit further before we get sucked into that.
Yes. And, that's actually something that I thought of the other day is I wonder how many prospective members have not joined Kwasizabantu because people have spoken about their experiences. And that's not something that we'll ever be able to quantify. But that doesn't mean that there aren't people out there who might have been swayed and now won't be, because we have raised our voices and said what happened to us. So just that is already an accomplishment, I think.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. That's the good work that you do, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you, by helping us get the word out there too.
Stop it.
That can be our cult. It can be a mutual admiration cult.
Yeah, where you just build people up all day and everyone works with helping everyone and everyone gets to keep their own money and their own minds.
Yes, that could be our cult. Sounds a bit like how the world should be.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, do you ever just sit back and go, you know what? Fuck it. This was the worst and best bit of my life, but I'm here and look what I've achieved.
Only recently have I been able to do that. One of the things they drilled into me is that I'm bad and I'm evil, and you can't be proud of yourself while you also actually believe that you're bad. And now that I don't think I'm bad anymore, I can actually step back and go, wow, look how far I've come, and same for so many of us. And I'm just in absolute admiration of people who are excelling in their chosen fields, in their career, in their family life, breaking the cycle of abuse with their own children. I have huge admiration for all of us. And there are still many who are really struggling, man, I just don't want another 20 years to go by and another Erika to have to write another book for South Africa to go, oh my word, that's so terrible, and then another 20 years go by and then there's another Erika who writes another book, so yeah, I think that's kind of my quest, is to save all the Erikas and the boys, and yeah, that's my quest.
It's a beautiful mission to have.
Yeah, I'm on a mission.
That was such a up my alley joke. My cousin calls me the Queen of Corn because I make
so much better than being the Queen of Corn.
That one was for you, Cammy. Oh dear. So is there any other parting words, any other parting thoughts that you want to share with the readers/listeners?
Well, I'm hoping many of these listeners are going to become readers. but let me just read one paragraph from chapter 78. Here is my solemn vow. I will continue to be a voice for those who have been silenced by Kwasizabantu. I will be a thorn in their side until they stop breaking the spirits of the children in their care. My voice may not be loud, but together with the voices of countless other survivors, I hope it becomes a rousing call. Together we form our own choir number 1, a choir for change. I really hope the world will listen to us and help us save the children of Kwasizabantu. There it is in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's just...
Are you wiping a tear?
A little. Like, I mean, I just, like I said, like reading your book had me between tears and laughter and anger a lot.
Yes.
So
yes.
yeah.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did laugh, because I didn't want it to be like this woe is me tale, that drags you down. I mean, of course, some of the things I write about are horrific, but that's because they happened.
Yes.
But I didn't want it to be. I also wanted it to be a good read. Yeah.
From what I've now gotten to know about you, this book is basically you. Like, it's like if you read the book, you've read Erika. it's beautiful and heart-wrenching and hopeful. At the end, it kind of gives you hope. And I think the other thing that'll happen is it'll resonate across people going through different things. So like maybe I'm depressed, or I'm in an abusive relationship with a partner. So it'll resonate across genres. Oh, I'm sorry, listeners, my English is terrible today. But yeah, across genre, across things happening in life.
Absolutely, because our experiences might be different, but the feelings they evoke are pretty universal.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I really hope that we can maybe in the future do another catch-up chat, maybe another podcast catch-up chat. Hopefully by then we'll have a CRL report or a Hawks investigation. I know that
that'd be nice.
Yeah, I reached out to a couple of my friends, and basically the Hawks will announce an investigation, but you kind of won't know what happens until it happens, kind of thing. And that could take a couple of years. So
oh goodness.
Depends on how quickly they need to go through, or how much information they need to go through. But it's been amazing talking to you for the last 2 weeks.
It's been so lovely chatting to you as well. Really.
I know. I'm definitely
very, very much.
Yeah, I'll definitely have you back on. Is it crappy for me to say how proud I am of you?
No, it's lovely. Thank you.
You've overcome so much, and you're just beautiful, and you are definitely your kerkproppie. So
thank you, Pauline.
And thank you for doing this. Thank you for fighting. Thank you for being kind, and also a thorn in their side at the same time.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for that. I've loved chatting to you, and I'm so looking forward to listening to your next episode as well.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll chat soon. I just again thank you for your time. I know you're a very busy and in-demand young lady, so thank you for that as well.
I guess if you look at me from the age of 120, I am a young lady.
You're not even halfway through your life yet.
Exactly. Bye, Pauline.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Once again, I would just like to thank Erika for her time and all that she does. It was such an honor to speak to her. You can also follow on Twitter at E, B, e 40. I will add her Twitter handle in the show notes. Next week, we will have a brand new guest on the show. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the subscribe button and rate and review us. It will go a long way into improving the podcast and helping others find it. Please also share it with your friends and family. You can find us on Facebook, and you can email us at decodingcults@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. If there are any topics around the workings of cults which you would like further explanation on, or if there is a cult that you would like to hear about, email me or post it in the Facebook group. Remember to go and check out bydesigncraftssa and Endeavour AV and tell them that we sent you. This week, I want to say gracias to my listeners in Argentina. The amazing logo art was created by the tattoo artist Jock Jacobs. Thank you so much for listening.